welcome to Heathen Talk episode 10. We are currently live and currently still at 0 viewers because that's the way it works. And tonight we're going to get to know the cast. We have a special guest. Our producer, Mark, is in the room with us tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Lauren while I take care of some other business.
All right, well, I want to let you guys know that there is actually a pretty nifty event that's going to be coming up, and it is the Midwest Thing. I'm pretty excited about this because this was put together the weekend, this was put together by the Ida Plainsmen in Missouri to have an event where heathens from all over the Midwest can show up and actually have a legitimate thing. And it is going to be a Friday through noon Friday through noon Sunday on the weekend of the 25th of September through the 27th. And it's going to be at the Geyer Retreat Center, which is near, I can't remember. It is actually near the town of McLouth, Kansas, but it's actually somewhere bigger. Anyway, I'm about to post this to our Facebook. So if you want more information about this great event that is going to be going on at Camp Gaia the 25th through the 27th, that are being hosted by some great people, and a chance to really come out, and if you're a leader of a kindred or a tribe in the Midwest, come out and make your voice heard, because this is really a chance for the Midwest as a larger region to really come together and talk about a lot of things that need to be talked about if you're out here in the Midwest. So please come check that out. And speaking of which, I want to offer our toast this week, as is our tradition. Each week we offer a toast to someone who is out there on the ground making a difference in heathenry. So, and this week, my toast goes out to the Ida Plainsmen kindred, to Nemo, the Northeast Missouri, and really all these other people who have stepped up and said, hey, it's really not cool that you guys made plans for Lightnings Across the Plain and it got canceled. So to everybody we don't know about and everybody that we do, you're very greatly appreciated for stepping up for the community, because it's hard work. Festival organizing is very hard work. So hail.
So the other thing that we've started doing is telling everybody what we're drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And since I've got things organized a certain way, I'm going to go ahead and ask everyone what they're drinking. Lauren, what's on the menu?
Lauren is drinking Merlot, because Lauren, and to be fair, I don't really drink all that much because of the medications I'm on. So this is my one weekly indulgence of wine. So I may still be on the same box wine that I was last week.
All right.
That was going to be my next question.
Mark, what about you? What are you drinking?
I was a corporate shill tonight, and I decided to get a 12-pack of Guinness Extra Stout because it was what was open, because all of our beer stores closed at 8 o'clock.
That's the sad
Silly wastelanders.
You know?
Oh, God, that doesn't even happen in Arkansas. That's
yeah,
sad.
We have to get our beer from grocery stores and our liquor and wine from wine and liquor stores. Go figure.
Interesting.
Well, that's just terrible. And Lauren, you may not have your stuff closing that early, but can you get liquor on a Sunday?
Only at Sam's Club.
Now, just to drive home the fact that I'm in the south of Cascadia, I can't get liquor on Sunday.
That's sad.
I can.
What? Arkansas,
All right, so
I'll say this, Arkansas has these weird loopholes for all that called private clubs. And so we have dry counties here, which for those of you who don't live in the South, a dry county is a county where it is illegal to purchase and in some places possess alcohol. So you have it's kind of
blue laws.
Yeah, and you have these liquor stores that fight against dry counties being repealed because they're making all the money from the people driving over from the dry counties. So but in dry counties, you can have a private club. So places like Olive Garden or Applebee's or any restaurant in a dry county, they're all private clubs so that they can serve liquor.
I dig it. Torin, what do you rate it?
I don't know how you people live sometimes. A little earlier in the week, it was, I don't know, about 10:30 at night. I just rolled into one of the local beer stores and picked up a 6-pack of Full Sail's Pub Series Oktoberfest. So that's what I'm drinking tonight. And just like the rest of the Pub Series so far, it's a pretty solid Oktoberfest.
Well, for me, I'm drinking a 5-pine chocolate porter by Three Creeks Brewing, and they're out of Sisters, Oregon, because Oregon makes the best beer in the country.
While you're wrong about that, I did try that beer just the other day. It's on tap at one of the local places here in Seattle called Brower's Cafe in Fremont, and that was a pretty decent one.
I concur. So we did tell everybody, and I think we're probably going to have, at least to begin with, a fairly low viewership because we didn't do a lot of promoting on this episode.
No, we didn't, because we're lazy.
Well, to be fair,
I was going to say busy.
Yeah, we just had a holiday weekend. For some reason, my instructors thought, hey, you know what the smartest thing in the world is? Let's give tests either over the holiday weekend or the day right after we come back. So I've been, like, bigger than a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest.
There are also 2 members of the staff that had thought that Wednesdays didn't happen for the past 2 weeks, myself and Torin. So.
There is that. Hey, I caught last Wednesday. It was this Wednesday I didn't realize was a thing about 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Oh.
I have nothing to say to that.
In my defense, I just changed to a new work schedule, so I had this really odd thing where I wasn't, whipping myself to, speed home through traffic and avoid the cops to get here in time to do this because I'm actually off at 1 in the afternoon now. Completely threw me off.
What do you do with all your extra time?
The same thing I used to do with my mornings.
So you have your first cup of coffee at 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
Oh, gods no. I drink about a pot now. I'm actually drinking more coffee now.
Yep.
All right, so since we do have some questions and none of us prepared, I want to get into that. But first, Torin, there's a question that Toby wanted you to ask me.
Yes. This is an awesome question.
What is your favorite thing, Josh?
My favorite thing in the whole world, the thing I love more, well, that's not true. The thing that I adore is small children cursing like sailors. I think it is the most adorable thing in the world to hear a 2-year-old tell somebody to fuck off.
So you
wow.
really enjoyed
9 minutes
that.
in. I just want to point that
yes,
out. 9
9 minutes. That's a new record.
That's going to be really, really difficult for us to deal with on a show where we're talking about ourselves. I just want to point that out there.
Let's just say the F word's going to come out a lot this week. We may have to up our rating for this week.
I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah. Just fuck.
All right.
So this week on Heathen Talk, we are actually giving fucks.
Lots and lots of them.
So, now that I have made good on my obligation to give a shameful fact about myself, we can actually answer some of the real questions we got versus Toby's shit stirring.
And by the way, for those of you who aren't regular listeners, Toby is our regular fill-in guest / academic advisor.
A lot of good he's been doing me lately.
Well, he's busy. He's got, obligations.
A life.
He's visiting the wastelands right now, so I do feel for him. I will give him. I'll give him an out there.
And I'll even say that's the wastelands, because that's.
That's bad coming from Arkansas.
Yeah.
Because we're going to listen to a qualification on that from somebody living in the wastelands.
Well, there's the wastelands, and then there's holy moly, it's too hot to function wastelands.
So this episode is mostly brought to you by one of our listeners who decided he needed to know all the things. So I'm going to start with our first question.
Uh-huh.
what is your favorite alcoholic drink that might be classified as a soft drink in Europe? Beer, wine, mead, etc. And Torin, why don't you go ahead and wax poetically about beer?
I could say so much about beer. Between the drinking of it, the making of it, the lore behind it, the fact that there are countries that have entire legal systems based on it. Because, you can never forget the German purity laws. Whenever you're making a beer and you're looking for some sort of documentation to put on it and make it sound fancy when it's really not, you just point out that it conforms to German purity laws. Works every time.
I'm not going to touch that one.
To be honest, if you're going down that road, it's your problem, not mine.
I know really nothing about beer because I can't drink it.
Well, you shouldn't be celiac then.
Well, let's rephrase that. I can drink sorghum beer, but why would anyone do that to themselves?
Okay, well,
it's pretty awful.
Lauren, I'm going to go ahead and say this right now.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to make a solid attempt. I can't make a promise at it, but I'm going to make a solid attempt to attempt a beer experiment that my brother Joe and I have been talking about doing for a while now. Because here's the thing. We live in Cascadia, and for all the wonderful things about actually living in the civilized part of the continent, one thing we do have to put up with is a lot of hipsters. And as a result, we are constantly inundated with things that are gluten-free and vegan and GMO-free and all of these other labels that, for the most part, mean absolutely nothing, with the exception of gluten-free for the celiac sufferers. But we've decided that we wanted to make the best-selling beer of all time in the region of Cascadia, therefore we have to make a beer that conforms to all of those labels. And we have to make it actually taste good. So we're going to be experimenting with that, and hopefully by the time Cascadia Moot rolls around, we will have a gluten-free beer that actually tastes good, that you can sit down and not just enjoy yourself while the rest of us kind of snicker at it and look sideways, but one you can enjoy with us.
Oh, that would be so awesome, because it's like I had a gluten-free beer at the Melting Pot like 4 years ago, and I drank like 3 sips of it, and I'm like, this is not beer. I don't know what this is, but it makes PBR seem tasty.
It's fermented sugar water.
Yeah, it was, and I drank a lot of PBR in college, so.
Ugh.
PBR became a hipster drink when I was in college.
Oh, see, when I was in college, it was what poor theater majors drank because we had no money.
It could have been cross-contamination then, because I did go to an art school.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I really don't understand the hipster fascination with PBR, because to tell you the truth, as much as I make fun of the hipsters, I do often give them credit in this region by their very presence and their market force, making it so that if it's 1 a.m. and I have a sudden need for mustache wax, or any other random thing that you can't get in the wastelands unless you order it on the internet, I can probably find it at a store that's open within a 5-mile drive of my house. And
now, I will say,
for that, I thank the hipsters.
I thank the hipsters because I can now go to Target and Walmart instead of a whole paycheck and buy gluten-free food.
Yeah, well, there is that.
Yeah, I was having that conversation, in fact, the other day with another friend of mine who's celiac. I'm like, on one hand, I hate hipsters. On the other hand, man, it's nice to be able to buy cheap gluten-free stuff. Ugh.
Well, this just goes to show you that, the mute can listen and the lame can ride, and the hipster can even provide worth to his community.
That needs to be a T-shirt.
That'll be one of our 3 designs we put out for the show.
I'm making that an official addition to the Havamal now.
I agree. That sounds like you could just tell people Jackson Crawford said it and they believe it.
No, so we're gonna publish a Cascadian Havamal, and that'll be in it. Just disclaimer: that's not going to happen.
Okay.
There will be no Cascadian.
You realize you said it on the show, and now it has to happen, right?
It may not be you.
Disclaimer. Asterisk.
Okay, so Torin, you talked about beer, but you didn't say what your favorite beer was.
So I'm supposed to specify a favorite beer?
Yeah.
I mean, is that even possible? Can I specify a favorite sunrise?
Can you specify a favorite type of beer?
No, I cannot.
Well, then you get to shut up. Mark wants your favorite soft drink.
Well, given that when I was in Italy doing an archaeological dig 2 years ago, they had Guinness in their vending machines on the street in Genzano de Roma, where we were staying, I would have to go with that, and that is also a reason why I'm drinking it.
All right.
I have an
That's
answer.
Fair answer. What's up, Lauren?
I would say of all of those things, I am a really huge fan of hard cider. My favorite one has got to be right now because I don't have access to the number of hard ciders is coming up a lot. It used to be that you could buy Woodchuck and that was it. But I'm really fond right now of Angry Orchard's cinnamon hard cider and their ginger hard cider.
You know what is better than Angry Orchard cinnamon hard cider?
What?
Other than pretty much any cider from here. You take their regular cider and you add just a splash of Senfire whiskey.
I can't do whiskey.
It's not whiskey. I don't care what they call it.
It's not whiskey.
I can't do whatever that is because it's got weed in it. Yeah, malt liquor.
She's probably correct on that, though. However, you know what she should try if she wants a really good cider? Lake Chelan.
I've never had that one, but Atlas out of Bend makes one of the best ciders I've ever had.
Atlas isn't bad. If you ever find yourself a bottle of Lake Chelan, you're going to end up finding it in the refrigerator case. Don't drink it when you get home. Let it sit on the counter and warm up to room temperature. It tastes like piss when it's cold, but it's delicious when it's warm.
I will have to. We actually have kind of a foo-foo liquor store here that was actually featured on TV a while back, like on like the Tonight Show or something. So I will have to. And they'll order almost anything they can. So I'll have to see if they can order me some in one of those.
Absolutely. So, I'm a dark beer guy. I like stouts. I like porters.
Good man.
They're the best. So, the next question we got.
Well, I was going to say real quick in response, because Etheric is paying attention and is responding in real time, and I did want to go ahead and point out to him that his problem is that he's thinking best-selling on a national market, and I don't care about the national market because I'm Cascadian and the rest of you don't count. So moving on.
I'll drink to that.
Cheers.
I won't.
Don't worry, you'll get out here eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I flip you guys off, and then I'm like, oh man, I need to graduate.
All right, so there's a question specifically for Lauren that I actually think is a pretty good question that we should get to before we delve further into the ridiculousness that is Etheric's questions. Ridiculous in volume, pretty much. Lauren, you're blind. Legally. Are there any audio books, Heathen-wise, available for the visually impaired? And if not, how does that impact your practice?
I'm very glad you asked that. Something that some of you guys know because I talk about it a lot, and I've mentioned it on Facebook and some other places. I am actually heading up something called the Accessible Heathenry Project because of just that. Right now, audiobook-wise, I can get there are some recordeds on LibVox of some of the really, really old translations that have been in public domain for more than, I can't remember how many years is their thing. There is an excellent audiobook on Audible of Ragnar's Saga that was translated by my friend Ben Wagner, and it's his translation, but it's really good anyway. The audiobook's just really good. I'm an audiobook snob because I listen to so many of them. But truthfully, it's I'm lucky that I'm able to use what's called optical character recognition, where I can take documents, scan them into a computer. I have this program called Abby Fine Reader that takes those documents and turns them into a plain text document. And that's actually what I'm trying to do for a whole bunch of documents that I got. Uh-oh, it's the popo.
Sorry about that.
I'm sorry. I just heard that. Oh God, it's the Popo.
I do believe there's a question we're going to get to that this kind of relates to.
So anyway, what I do, and so the project I'm doing right now, and if anybody's interested, hit me up on Facebook, and I'll add you to our working group. Is I'm using this software to go through a lot of these public domain, some public domain things that were posted. That I got actually a whole bunch of public domain stuff from our friend Thorbjorn, who's a very, very stand-up guy for all I disagree with him. But that's heathenry. If you're not disagreeing with somebody, you're doing it wrong. So we're running those through this character recognition program, and then I have people who are volunteering to basically take the original scan document and the Word file this will generate and edit to make sure that they match up exactly and add descriptions of any graphics that are in there. So I'm really hoping that by the end of the year we'll have a pretty. We already have Culture of the Teutons Volume 1 and Volume 2 up. So I'm hoping by the end of the year that we'll have a pretty significant library of books, not just for people who are visually impaired, but there are people who drive really long distances. There are people who have other reading impairments like dyslexia. And as much as I am the liberal hippy-dippy heathen of the group, man, this is homework with religion. Or that's how I feel about it sometimes. This is a religion with homework. And that homework doesn't have to be just reading academic material and books. We are an orthopraxic religion, and some of that homework is just getting out and doing. But you need to be able to at least have some reference material for when you have questions. So that's my project, and if you're a heathen author out there and you would like me to do this with your works, to get them translated over, and so you can have a medium available, so if someone approaches you and says, hey, do you have this in an accessible format, you can go, here it is. Do like White Marsh Theo did and say, buy a print copy, give it to somebody, and we'll send you the accessible copy. So it's really important to me. That's kind of my pet project right now besides this thing.
Well, in that vein, I mean, we did decide that we're going to start doing an audiobook version of Culture of the Teutons. So,
and by we mean Josh. And by Josh, we mean Josh.
Yeah.
But that's another thing. I mean, God, if you have the time and the ability, please help out. A lot of people complain that, oh, well, I'm not a part, I'm this, that, and the other. If you've got the time, if you're somebody who's solitary and you really want to kind of delve into some of these works and get some feedback, volunteer for one of these projects. Read, somebody asked me about doing an audiobook version or something. I said, pick something that's meaningful to you and read it aloud. That isn't We Are Our Deeds, because Josh is doing that.
No, I'm doing Culture of the Teutons. I'm not
Culture
doing
of the Teutons, I'm sorry. Okay.
I'll read Germania. Why not?
I would love to do We Are Our Deeds, but I don't think that's in the public domain, and I would have to get permission from the author and the publisher.
Yeah, you'd have to reach out to the publisher, but there are opportunities also for, if you're a heathen author, there are opportunities to get your stuff on things like Audible. You can actually, and others, there's an audience out there for people who are either heathen or they are Norse history enthusiasts. There really is an audience out there for people who would like to have something that they can use.
So, real quick, speaking of projects, there was something we were going to talk about, kind of a last-minute thing showed up on the Facebook that we forgot to pimp at the beginning of the show.
Oh, yeah, and that's actually something I'm now involved with.
The Open Halls project, if you guys remember, was it 2 episodes ago, we had Josh Heath on the show, and he was telling us about his project. Well, they had a recent development, and they really need help of well-spoken and knowledgeable people to come and help them write what they're calling an executive pamphlet on heathenry so that they can present that to the DoD. So if you guys are interested or you know someone who would be good for this project, we really need you to go over to the Open Halls Project Facebook page and volunteer. They need your help. It's a great cause, and you would be helping servicemen who are heathen get the recognition they deserve.
And definitely, actually, go to Facebook or let me see, because I talked to Josh about this. If you can go and email them at heathenopenhalls@gmail.com, email Josh at that email address, and that's how he would like to be contacted. And if you'll email him and let him know that you're interested in helping, there's still a lot of work to do, and that's even with just this. The first project is just a 2-page, basically, pamphlet specifically for chaplains, and then we're going to move on to a much larger work for the handbook.
I think that covers our duty to pimp that. Real quick, Lauren, there's a compliment to you.
Really?
On the subreddit from Shieldmare.
I like Shieldmare. She's awesome. Not just because she complimented me.
She says she loves your hair and that you look beautiful.
Thank you. Yes, we've moved from the pink. I'm in grown-up school now, so we have moved back to something that is a louder version of my natural hair color because I am a ginger. And I do have a soul, thank you very much. Torin.
Lies and slander.
She also has a question for us, though.
Okay.
And I'm going to go ahead and let Mark get in on this one because he's usually in the background and we all respect his opinions, so he gets a chance to be heard. Do you feel that oaths that serve the self, examples of weight loss, fitness, career goals, are appropriate in ritual, or are they just self-serving?
Well, I know I've made a few in my day. I think it really depends on the individual and how they approach it themselves largely. It's a really tough one for me to want to answer.
Are you passing on the first question you really get?
No, I'm just trying to figure a way out around it because...
Welcome to the podcast, Mark.
Yeah, right.
I did kind of throw him in the deep end.
Well, it's all right. I deserve it. I have been sitting back for 9 weeks or so. I think it depends on how one approaches the idea of what a ritual could be. I mean, is there really any difference in making a promise in front of an icon or in a setting alone as opposed to in a formalized group ritual? I mean, you could probably argue either way that there is something to be said about the group ritual being a little bit more, I don't know, I don't want to say important. If I'm going crazy on this one, I have had a long day at work, so I'm sorry that I'm all over the place. I think, again, it's an oath. It's a solemn vow. It's a solemn agreement in the light of the gods or whomever you're dealing with. So if you make it, you keep to it. Basically, what is the way I feel about it. I mean, if you say that you're going to do something in the name of or in askance of something, you are going to do it. And if not, then you need to make it right. And I probably just butchered that and went off on a crazy alternate tangent.
I do get the feeling that there will be some disagreement here.
Probably.
So
I'm always disagreed with. What are you talking about?
I have a very strong opinion on this one.
Well, why don't you give it to us, Lauren?
I think that when you are talking about something that ends up being for the good of the tribe, and what that is going to be very dependent, it's absolutely appropriate. I think the most powerful ritual I ever sat in was a symbol in somebody's house where a friend of mine made a oath that basically was probably I want to say the most solemn and probably the most serious oath I've ever heard anyone take. And it was a very personal, I don't want to share what it was, but it was a very, to a degree, because of the nature of it being very personal, yes, it was a little self-serving, but at the same time, it was also what was great for his tribe, his family, and I can't fault him. And to me, that became, I've studied a lot and this is a little to dabble more into kind of the science end of it, but when you agree to do something with someone, whether it's weight loss or workout, basically if you involve someone else, if you involve your community, your family, your tribe, you are so much more likely to be successful. And so I think that there is if you're doing something, if it's self-serving, oh, I oath that I'm going to win the lottery. No, I really don't. Nobody take that seriously. But, for me to say, for me to talk about oathing to go back to school and to succeed or something like that, well, that's kind of crucial to my well-being, but also to my family, to my kindred. I mean, I just really think it's just too complicated. It really, if it's a flippant like, well, I have oath that I'm going to lose this last 5 pounds. No. Is it, well, I oath that I'm going to finally get to a healthy weight because my weight is killing me and my health problems are detrimental to my tribe. I think that's, to me, I feel really strongly about it because of that experience I had and how powerful it was, and also how much closer it made us. The people in that room who all witnessed that oath became a part of that oath. And we had, according to my tradition, now this is my tradition here and not yours, but according to my regional tradition, I have an obligation then, if I witness your oath, to help you succeed in that oath. So that it's also, I think, in terms of a really strong community building thing as well.
Well, yeah, if you have a community. I mean,
Hold on.
some of us don't, whether by choice or by circumstance. So, I mean,
Yeah, but she's
I'm not
your
arguing
ritual.
against what you said at all. I'm just saying, I'm just pointing out that I'm one of those people who are at present unaffiliated.
I've been there and I understand.
Mostly because I don't play well with others. It's not because I don't really have the opportunity to, but I am kind of an asshole. And
Have you met Torin or I?
Well,
I
no.
like small
I mean,
children
officially
who
not
curse like
in person,
sailors.
but... I was the one that just kind of showed up out of nowhere, remember? I mean...
I'm going to say this to you. Having been around lots of heathens, lots of contentious heathens, because they're all Southerners, which just adds a whole level of hubris to heathen, you are, like, so nice. You are so easy to deal with. You have never, ever come up to me and complained about those damn fill-in-the-blanks are ruining everything. Except for that one time about Torin, but that's a person, not a that's a person, a little different.
All right, so Torin, I do want to get your opinion on this question.
Yes, Torin.
Okay, so first of all, it really is a good question, and I have to say that Lauren, especially, you had a lot of good things to say about that. One of the important factors there would be, is there a benefit to your tribe? That is ridiculously important because that really is what it all comes down to. It goes back to what we've always, or at least I've always harped on about it. It's the definition of good and evil is that which is good is that which is beneficial to the tribe, that which is bad is that which is destructive to the tribe. But I wanted to address something you had to say about it, Mark, is you were talking about there being a difference between taking an oath, in front of a group versus taking an oath in front of an icon or whatnot. The thing is, without a witness, there isn't an oath. Because part of the purpose of an oath is the binding of the luck between the person giving the oath and the person witnessing it. And I know that's kind of out of the scope of the question. I just felt it was important to address, at least on my own end of things. But as far as, taking those kind of oaths, before I get so far away from the question that I forget what it was, absolutely you can take oaths for self-betterment in ritual, because self-betterment is usually also tribal betterment. So you're serving your tribe through that. That said, don't take the ridiculous oaths like Lauren was talking about, where you're promising or making an oath that you're going to win the lottery or something, because you can't make that promise. You have no control over it, and there's probably going to be a consequence to that oath, and you're probably not going to enjoy it.
And for me, I think that's the kicker.
The consequence.
A lot of self-serving oaths are made without any thought to the consequence of not fulfilling the oath. And breaking an oath has consequences. It just does. And they should be openly stated in your oath, and if they're not, then you just don't have one.
You're doing it wrong.
We're really good at saying that.
Well, because we're doing it right.
We've had 9 weeks worth of practice.
I think in terms of not opening up, having a clause, and if you fail it, I think that's just opens up for the absolute worst to potentially happen.
Right, and you got to ask yourself: do you really want an ancestor, white, or God deciding what the consequence of you failing your oath is?
Not particularly.
No comment.
You're a Roman. You don't count.
Shush. None of that.
All right. So once Lauren gets her headset back on, she has another special announcement that we probably should have done at the beginning of the show, but we're slacking.
Really on the ball tonight.
I'm sorry, guys. My husband just got home, so. I have a really huge announcement I'm very proud of, that we are now like the big leagues on the internet. We are now at heathentalk.com as of today, and heathentalk.org. So
we have a URL.
We have a URL, and you can come. Well, we had a URL before. We have a domain name. I'm going to get pedantic about this because that's kind of my thing. That's
what I'm
studying.
Pedantic about your mispronunciation of pedantic.
I've never heard anyone actually say it except me. I have this problem with malaprops of words because a lot of times I've learned the pronunciation of words from very bad computer generated voices.
Lauren, I have the same problem as somebody who reads a ridiculous number of books.
Yes.
Because a lot of times I'm reading authors that are using vocabularies that are a little bit outside the norm. And I will have a word that I have in my head for a decade before anybody bothers to point out to me I've been mispronouncing it the whole fucking time.
Yeah. Either way,
so
I'm really excited about it. We are at heathentalk.com or heathentalk.org.
So all 7 of you who are watching right now should go to the website.
Holy crap, we're up to 7.
Yeah.
6 now. Somebody quit on us.
That's kind of. I'm not gonna lie.
Slackers.
That's kind of low for
Slacker.
us. But yeah. Or when you hear this podcast, it's gonna be on the Facebook page. That just makes it easier. Also, if you have comments about the show, you can send them to producer@heathentalk.com.
Let me know. Right now, I'm just getting the IRC logs.
And you can talk to Mark, or you can still use our normal one, but he does have his
We're
special
official.
producer.
We're
official. He's official.
Come on.
We can put this on resumes now.
We really can. I hadn't even thought about that.
This
I'm
is
gonna have
going
to
on my
update my
I'm looking for a job. This is going on my resume.
I know. I'm in the middle of a job search myself right now.
As am I.
I'm just trying to get an internship but
I'm going to keep my mouth shut on the off chance that my boss listens to this.
I actually have a question I've kind of picked out here that I want us to kind of answer from Etheric, because this one particularly caught my eye. What is your favorite translation of the Eddas and why?
I'm going to answer first because I don't think I've answered yet.
Yeah, please do. That's why I asked a question.
I like the free one on sacredtext.com because it's so.
free.
There you go. I like free stuff.
Torin?
I think the answer to that is yes. They all have their uses. They all have their different qualities. Some of them are more concerned about preserving the poetic feeling of the original. Some of them are more concerned with getting the concepts in the text across. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. And really, it just depends on what my reason for looking at the an edit is. But I don't know. Lately, I've been reading Jackson Crawford's. When I pick one up, I did buy a copy of that, and it's pretty fantastic.
I'm actually really enjoying it. I have it. I'm having to listen to it being like mechanically generated. So Jackson Crawford, if you listen to this, if you could get somebody to record that, you would be my favorite person of that day. Because exactly like I was talking about, honestly, right now I would say that the one I probably use the most is Larrington, and that's just because that's the only one that I have right now that works really well with screen readers and whatnot.
You know, I would do the reading of Jackson Crawford's if I didn't have a voice that only I could love.
I worked professionally. You have a pretty decent voice. Trust me. Boy,
I'd have a much better one if I, didn't smoke a pack a day, but
oddly enough, that can give you a better voice. Children, don't listen to that.
No,
especially if you want to sing the blues.
That's another reason why, between comments like that and our multitude of fucks that we're giving today is the reason why we're going to go ahead and up the rating on this episode.
Yeah, intended for mature audiences only. Please don't listen to this in your car with children. But yeah.
However, in our PG-13 podcast, we're still going to tell you what we're drinking.
You know what? I'm gonna digress for a second there, Torin. I grew up in a teetotaler household, and all that did was make me want to start drinking as soon as I could get away from my parents. I think if you make alcohol like it's no big deal, then it becomes no big deal. If you make alcohol like it's this mysterious taboo thing, you're going to have children who are binge drinkers in college.
Hence the problem with America's drinking.
Exactly.
Well, maybe we should start letting them have these too, and they wouldn't want them anymore when they get old enough.
Yeah, because that's worked so well.
So, more questions.
More questions. Lauren,
wait, no. We'll let Lauren get to that in a second. There's one that I've been trying to find a way to fit it in and ask you. So I'm just going to say screw it and say, Josh, there's somebody on the IRC right now that claims that you promised to hang a Doug flag in the background, but you haven't.
Oh yeah,
what's up with that?
You're supposed to hang a Cascadian flag.
Where's the Doug flag, man?
You are absolutely right. I did promise to hang a Dougie, and sadly, I believe my Dougie is in a box because I don't have a place to hang it normally. So I will do my best, and I'm sure Torin will not let me live this down, to have it up by next Wednesday in the background right there over that guitar so you can see it. And I hope you will all forgive me for falling down on my duties.
Okay, now that we've gotten past that and we've shamed Josh into making a promise, continue with your question to Lauren.
Lauren, you wanted to show off your pets.
My girls. Okay, so I have 2 dogs that are like my children. This, my finger up enough. This is Lady. Lady, can you high five? Give him a high five. Good girl. And we've had her since January. She's a 3-year-old Lhasa Apso. And then I have the other one sitting here wondering why I'm not paying attention to her. And this is and I apologize for everybody watching the podcast. This isn't Grumpy Butt. This is Ginger, and she is a almost 7-year-old Shih Tzu pug mix. She is the body of a pug with hair of a Shih Tzu, and she needs to be groomed very badly. But
That's terrifying.
this was what I got as my engagement present when my husband and I got engaged. She's kind of terrified of you guys right now.
Well, I can't blame her. Torin's scary looking.
Yeah, she's looking over here at Torin. So, and now she's looking away.
Just
All right.
remember, little one, you're edible.
I know the rest of you have pets.
Yes.
So,
Torin,
Mark,
I've seen you
kind of
love
has
on
to
your
do that.
love on yours during the show.
Hell yeah, my animals are awesome. They're better than anybody else's animals, and that's an objective fact.
No, it's not.
I have a cat that greets people at the door like a puppy. Come on now.
I have a dog that thinks she's a cat.
My cat has a handle growing out of the back of her spine. She prefers to be picked up by that.
I believe that that's a medical problem, and you should probably go to the vet. I have a pet, and this is Sammy, and he's adorable.
Hi,
And
Sammy.
I don't care what any of y'all say. He is a little cantankerous right now, though.
Is he an albino corn snake?
He is an albino corn snake.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
No matter what Toby says.
Well, I busted it out just because I know Toby's eventually going to watch this. And,
Look,
you know,
Toby.
having a snake crawling around is just good times. Of course, I think I'm going to go put him up because he's desperately trying to climb into my underwear drawer.
That's fair. I would want to save him from that too.
No kidding, right?
All right, Torin, you've told us Mark. I know you have. Hi. Oh my gosh, you're so cute. Oh, okay, I sounded like a 12-year-old girl there, but I get that way with dogs.
This is Ginger.
Hi, Ginger.
So my, I think maybe 3 years ago now, on you, I promised my wife I would get her a puppy, and I took her down to the shelter and told her she could have whatever she wanted, and part of me still thinks that she was trying to spite me a little bit, because she knows that I hate Chihuahuas, and she knows that I hate Dachshunds, and so she got a Chihuahua-Dachshund mix. But this dog is the chillest dog ever, and she's awesome. So,
Having been around both Chihuahuas and Dachshunds, and the fact that I've never heard that dog bark, yeah, that's the chillest Chihuahua ever.
she really is. I mean, she's still I like to refer to her as a chorizo. She's a Mexican sausage. I mean, come on.
Okay. This fat 14-pound bastard is Seabass. He is a pain-in-the-ass barn cat that decided to be adopted, and I don't know. He just kind of rolls around all day.
Well, that's what cats do, right?
Well, yeah. Well, he likes to beat up his sister. I have 2 cats and 2 yellow labs.
And they're still more active than my snake.
Well, I mean, with him it's debatable. I mean, he is 14 pounds. I've never had a cat in all of my life that gorges like a dog, but he will not leave a plate with food on it. Most cats will eat and then wander off, kind of bored.
Say, this is my other one enjoying her belly rubs. This is Wrecker. She's a puppy cat. She has a handle. You can pick her up by it. You know, you make
No,
that
I'm
thing.
more horrified of the fact that there's a cat that lets you pick it up by the tail.
You know, you can be horrified, but she's just super chill about it. That's how she gets her jollies, I guess. I don't know. She's a sweetheart, though. And
Well, you know, animals take on the temperaments of their owners. And
Your
I
wife
noticed
must be
you
a
have a
saint.
ponytail.
And I have a select number of people who are allowed to pull on that ponytail. The rest of them will get shanked.
I'm going to do it. I don't care.
Cascading moot. There's going to be everyone trying to pull your ponytail. You know that, right?
It's going to be like reverse pin the tail on the donkey.
You know, I'm going to include in the pledge of grith that I reserve the right to punch anybody who pulls on it without my permission.
And I'll give $5 to the first person to get away with it.
That still doesn't negate the punch.
Well, if I get away with it, I mean, they got to pull it and not get punched. That's the trick.
You wouldn't punch a blind woman, would you?
I would consider it.
Because I'm poor. $5 is a lot of money.
Hey, well, you know, when it comes down to it, I do believe in equality of the sexes, so...
Well, I'm blind.
I want to get to another couple of questions here.
Okay.
And this one could be fun. Do you have any hobbies that one might not expect of you, given both heathen and overculture hobby norms? In other words, homebrewing doesn't count for anyone.
I don't homebrew.
Neither do I.
Yeah. I don't
I
have a
have
room.
homebrewed, and I plan to, but I'm not prolific.
One of my tribe members was a very prolific homebrewer before he had kids, and I remember just watching it just slowly take over his and his wife's house until there were carboys everywhere. So yeah, I don't have enough room. I have a relatively small house for Arkansas. I don't have room.
You know, you got to set limits when it comes to that. I mean, I think I've opened this door before during the podcast. This is my brewing closet. It stretches from the wall here to well off camera as far as the inside of it goes. So it's got some pretty good square footage. And it's got enough room for a home setup. I'm hoping very soon to expand a little bit, but it's probably still going to be able to fit in the brew closet, or at least I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure it does. Now, on the flip side of that, the reason I get a whole closet to myself is because my wife gets the entire second bedroom of our apartment as her office. And this is fair. That's what we're going to go with. This is fair.
That's fair, but that doesn't count for the question. What is your non-brewing hobby?
Lauren?
You started talking first.
So, okay, you know what? I'm a goddamn stereotype. I'm a home brewer. I'm a blacksmith. I do the SCA, the reenactment, so like I said, I'm a bit of a heathen stereotype in a lot of ways. In fact, I'm combining multiple heathen stereotypes here. I guess if I had
the beard and the ponytail.
You know, I guess if I had to say that I had any hobbies that weren't necessarily super expected of a heathen, it's kind of twofold, and these hobbies probably relate to each other. I'm a huge technophile. Despite being dirt poor, I will pick once or twice a year some tech item that is absolutely fucking brilliant to me, that is just really like, holy crap, that's what was promised to me in the future, and I will get it. You know, this year I got myself an Amazon Echo. It's like having the computer from Star Trek in your living room.
You should pimp what you can do with the Amazon Echo.
You can do all sorts of things with the Amazon Echo.
I want to note here, Amazon's not giving us money.
No, they are not. But
please don't sue us either.
You can do all sorts of things with the Amazon Echo, not limited to, but including listening to the Heathen Talk podcast.
You can actually tell it to listen to Heathen Talk.
In fact, right now, I can look at my Amazon Echo and I can say, Alexa, play Heathen Talk podcast. And, of course, it's going to be the one time that it got really weird on me and didn't know what I was saying. But the point's there, that I could just tell it to start playing the podcast, and it would find it. I believe it finds it through. It's not Stitcher. I forget which service it finds it through.
Probably Stitcher or TuneIn.
TuneIn. It finds it through TuneIn.
Which we are available on both Stitcher and TuneIn.
We are. But that's one of its many talents. It's also becoming a lot of handy, you know, as a home brewer when I'm trying to do things like listen to music and set timers and such without putting my nasty hands covered in brewing supplies all over my electronics. But tied into that, I guess I would say one of the reasons that I became a huge technophile is because I am a massive sci-fi nerd. I mentioned earlier that, I read an obscene amount of books, and I would have to say that the huge lion's share of that is science fiction novels, because I'm just a freaking nerd for that stuff.
Well, I'm going
Nerd.
to go ahead and segue off of that.
Yeah, you go for that.
And my unexpected hobby is I am a conspiracy theory nerd. I love them. They're the best fiction you will ever read. And people get really, really passionate about it. Like, more than Comic-Con passionate.
I've related to a few of those conspiracy theory nuts. Yeah, they do.
That's okay.
I love them.
It's okay, Josh. I too go to X.
And, I mean, Alex Jones, who can't just appreciate the sheer batshit crazy that is Alex Jones.
Well, I'll kind of segue a little bit here. I used to be a talk radio producer, specifically conservative talk radio, and we didn't carry Jones, but we carried Savage, which is like Jones, who's only even more angry. And we would get people calling in trying to cite like Alex Jones as a source on their argument on whatever we were talking about that week or that day, and yeah. Still don't like Alex Jones, but like I agree. I read some aggregating sites of conspiracy theory posts because I'm too lazy to go seek that stuff out myself.
Oh, you've got to go to the Flat Earth Society. Those guys are amazing.
I've seen that.
No.
They believe that moonbeams cause insanity, and that you should wrap your tomatoes in tinfoil.
I mean, I have as much tinfoil as the next guy, but it's very rare that it's ever on my head.
Well, it wouldn't do you any good on your head, but in order to not get cancer, you got to wrap your fruits and vegetables in tinfoil,
right?
To keep the moonbeams from getting
them.
You mean
actual fruits and vegetables?
I do. Well, the plants.
Yeah. Let's
and your dog. Otherwise, it'll bite you.
Josh,
my dogs would cut me if I tried to put tinfoil on them. They would try to suffocate me in my sleep.
Whereas my dog would just cower and wondering what the hell was going on.
So what were you going to say, Torrin?
Well, I was going to say, between you and Lauren, you would love what I walked into at work the other day. I have a coworker who's really big into the right-wing talk radio, and because of the location of his desk, he pretty much controls the radio in our break room, and he usually has it on some conservative right-wing show or another. And we typically make a lot of fun of him and all the topics that are being spoken of on it, because he listens to the most rabid of them. And I walk into him listening to the Michael Medved show, and I hear him doing his lead-in for his show, talking about, I guess he does this once a week or once a month, something like that, but talked about it was his regular conspiracy theory episode. And I just stopped in my tracks, and I stared at the radio for a second, and I looked at Vic, who is my coworker I mentioned, and I said, isn't that every episode? Because it really is. It really made him kind of angry, which made me kind of happy. But I just thought the two of you might get a little bit of a kick out of the idea of Michael Medved doing a conspiracy theory episode.
Now, if you want to talk good conspiracy theory radio, Art Bell. Oh man, I loved awesome. Art Bell. And
George Norrie.
Norrie's okay, but Art Bell had this knack for being able to interview someone and have them think he was taking them completely seriously, while all the listeners knew that he thought they were full of shit. It was beautiful talent.
I like Art Bell, but my introduction to Art Bell was through George Norrie's Coast to Coast.
Well, see, Art Bell was the host of Coast to Coast before
Norrie, yeah. But by the time I got into it, Norrie was the host.
See, I started listening to Coast to Coast when I was like 16. Yeah. We were nerdy teenagers.
I didn't find Coast to Coast until after I got into the Navy, and I took my first cross-country solo driving from one duty station to the next, from Pensacola, Florida, to Whidbey Island, Washington. And I found that the only two things that could keep me awake at 2 a.m. in the morning when I'm trying to do a 20-hour day worth of driving is to either listen to Coast and listen to those nut jobs go on, turn on, uber conservative right-wing talk radio when I'm in the flyover states, because that would just make me angry enough to stay awake.
My first experience with Coast to Coast and probably the reason that I love conspiracy theories was 4th of July, 2002. And we were getting in the car after the fireworks show, so it was like 1 in the morning. And he came on and started talking about the planet Nibiru. Nibiru?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Nibiru. He's done that topic multiple times.
Well, it gets better. The reason I found it so amazing is because in 2002, I was a freshman in high school. I'm a youngin'.
Oh.
But my
Thanks for that.
at least you were still born in the 80s. I have trouble trusting anyone born in the 90s.
I can't blame you.
Yeah.
My
Sorry, you're my
stepdad
brother's age. It's okay.
believed it.
For those of you listening that were born in the 90s,
Sorry about the train.
it's entirely possible for you to be okay. You just have to listen to us.
I'm bitter right now because I'm in school with kids who were born the year I graduated high school. It's a little uncomfortable.
This is my opinion of it. If you were too young to remember hating NSYNC, you don't get to have an opinion.
Uh-oh.
My
I
wife
liked
said-
it.
So now that I've pissed
But I'm
off
a girl.
most of the
My
subreddit,
wife liked it.
let's go on to another question.
By the way, I do like.
I didn't
that
get to
it's,
answer.
I
And I
do
am
like that it's already-
I am a
already
nerd.
done
I am a nerd. So you guys know this because I talk about it a lot. I am a hardcore D&D role-playing gamer. Although I don't play much D&D anymore, I am just a pretty hardcore gamer, convention goer. I'm actually going to try my hand at cosplay for the first time next year at Mid-South Con. I'm going to be Squirrel Girl. I'm also a huge comic nerd, especially Squirrel Girl. That's my favorite. So, yeah, that's the big thing. But pretty much I have been a role-playing game nerd since a very young age. Yeah, my husband and I at the time met him. We actually met at a gaming shop here in Little Rock. The game room, which is sadly closed, even though the sign's still there. And we actually met there like almost 15 years ago. So yeah, that's my big passion, and that's the thing my husband and I probably spend. That's probably the thing I spend the most time doing that isn't school or talking to these guys.
So I have a quick question for Torin.
Oh.
Why are you always trying to sabotage the podcast? Your headset doesn't work, and you can't keep the background noises out of the show.
Well, let's put it this way. There's really nowhere else in my house for me or my apartment for me to go to do the podcast because, like I said, apartment. Not a lot of places to go in it. And it'll be a cold day in hell if I think doing a podcast like this is going to be something that can cause me to kick my wife out of the living room or out of the house entirely. So, there's going to be ambient noise from the fact that I am a happily married man, and the rest of you can piss off and deal with that. I also happen to live next to a major highway, which means as I'm sitting here next to my sliding glass door with the Highway 99 outside my window, you're going to hear things like those sirens, especially since I'm about a block away from the fire station. 4th of July was great. Let's see, beyond that, I'm poor, which I believe has been mentioned before. So I have this headset that was donated to me by a coworker. You can see the nice tape that's wrapped around this side of it because he's a gamer, and this is a headset that he busted and threw in a box about 5 years ago and happened to dig it out and give it to me for free. In fact, I do believe there was recently a promise to try to buy me a decent headset to do this show with so that my equipment wouldn't be nearly as bad. As for the rest of the technical difficulties, as in my connection that had a couple of weeks there where it kept wanting to drop out, I've got no fucking explanation for that. It didn't happen on any other days except for those 2 Wednesdays. Specifically, during the time that I was supposed to be doing the podcast, my internet would just decide to say, screw it.
It's clearly your internet lights.
Obviously, the internet lights are terrible, and
You've pissed them off.
I should try turning them off and then on again.
Yeah.
So, I'm just going to ask this because I want to address it. The dark-eyed Egyptian prostitute wants to know who exactly is Torrin's favorite science fiction author and science fiction book.
See, this is getting dangerously close to the same territory of what's your favorite beer, because I really can't raise one above the other. However, I can give as short an answer as possible to that by giving you a short list. I do really love my hard sci-fi, but I also love my epic space opera type sci-fi. So I end up going for authors like Neil Stephenson, huge favorite of mine. There's Charles Stross, of course, because there is absolutely nobody who's better at making the concept of the singularity both absolutely amazing while simultaneously absolutely terrifying as Charles Stross. Beyond that, there's Stephen Baxter is always going to be a huge favorite of mine because you are going to have to sit down with a dictionary and think when you read his books. And that doesn't even get into the territory of people like Peter Watts with Echopraxia and Blindsight. If you haven't read those two books, I highly encourage you to first sit down, take a long look at the mirror, and decide whether or not you're smart enough to tackle them. And then go pick them up. Because those books are going to challenge just about anybody.
I don't know. I mean, in terms of books, traditional sci-fi is kind of like, it's hit or miss with me. I'm very much more of an epic fantasy or just fantasy guy. So, but I have to dig up after. I have to dig out my Kindle because it's the easiest way for me to read right now because everything else is in storage.
Speaking of Tech Geek, I have one too.
I mostly use mine to watch videos when I'm in bed, but
Oh, you mean your tablet?
My not tablet because it sucks at being a tablet. Thanks, Kindle Fire.
It also sucks at being an e-reader, so I mean it's fully double duty.
But I did get into some space operas as of last year, but I have to, for the life of me, remember them, and I don't off the top of my head.
If you say Peter F. Hamilton, you've done well.
Whatever was free on the Kindle's Under library at the time.
So I'm going to go ahead and just the sci-fi nerd tropes and say that Dune and pretty much everything by Rob Heinlein are amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were about to say they were awful because I was going to have to hit you.
No, he's the Grand Master.
Heinlein, Stranger in a Strangeland is probably my absolute favorite book, and followed very closely by Job, A Comedy of Justice.
Oh, I like you so much more now. No, to be honest with you, I cut my teeth in Heinlein, and Job is probably my favorite Heinlein. Possibly To Sail Beyond the Sunset. Stranger in Strange Land's up there, but...
so, I got to point out, Heinlein is great. Heinlein is really good. But Dune is the most masterful science fiction political thriller I've ever read. If you don't like it, you need to GTFO.
I like it. It's just...
Have you read them... have you read all of the original 6 because screw the ones that his son wrote?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. I have, and I completely agree.
Just making sure. I was going to plug something for any other book geeks that are out there, or hell, just for you guys that might have a Kindle. There is actually a really great subreddit for those of us that are of the broker persuasion. It's called it's Arslant Free Ebooks. Look it up. I get so much free sci-fi through that sub. Now, granted, what you're going to have to live with is the fact that you are going to have to dig through some absolute garbage occasionally to get to the really good stuff, but it's full of new and self-published authors that, in order to get their stuff out there and popular, have to have little promotions where they'll spend a couple of days offering their book for free just to get their name out there. And I have run into some absolutely phenomenal stuff through there.
I will also say that I like that. I also like Kindle freebies back when I could still read my Kindle. I also got a lot of really great stuff from there. I usually spend most of my reading time now. I am an urban fantasy, and judge me, go ahead. Everyone else does. I like urban fantasy and I like young adult or like young adult.
As
urban
much as
fantasy.
as much as I want to judge you for that, the fact that those two genres are the best-selling
You know, I'm
fantasy
not gonna.
genres right now, to the point where that's the only thing you can get published by major publishing houses.
I have no room to judge. I grew up on Dragonlance.
I'll
Well,
judge
that's
you for
like
that,
that's
Josh.
like standard for anybody born
I just-
before 1993. Like,
I just really, really love some of the really, I guess because to me, once you weed out the ones that look like romance novels, which I don't like, I'm so judgy about covers, guys.
book six of the Wheel of Time, Lord of Chaos. I mean, come on now.
I'm so judgy about books by their covers, and I know you shouldn't be, but I don't care. If it's like got a half naked woman on it, I'm not gonna read it.
Okay, Lauren, I'm not going to judge you for the urban fantasy thing because there are some phenomenal urban fantasies out there. Have you read Sergei Lukyanenko?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure you've gone there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm biased against urban fantasy. I'm sorry to interject real quick, because I was in one of the bookstores that has now largely shut down because Borders went out of business.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I saw a cover, something about this girl in Chicago with the Norse gods and wielding a katana, and that just sums up all of the problems I have on one cover.
Okay. The Norse gods have absolutely nothing to do with those. That's the Chicagoland vampires. That is my absolute, hands down, favorite urban fantasy.
Is that
series.
it? Because I don't know. I don't remember anything about vampires with that book.
Oh well then there is
So
another.
before we
Okay,
get
so apparently
too
there's
much into this
another
digression about
katana wielding superhero in Chicago.
Hey, Josh, you shut the fuck up. This episode's about us.
I have a question about books.
Okay.
Okay.
So that I can talk about myself. What is your preferred heathen or non-heathen related book? And this one brings me to another confession. I'm apparently giving you a 2 for tonight. So if you're listening to this live, that's fantastic. We're going to edit this one out of the podcast.
And by we're gonna edit this one, that means Josh has to edit this podcast now.
I take that back.
See, there's
I'm a huge
consequences.
SM Sterling fan.
Why would we edit that out? There's nothing wrong with that.
I'm not done.
Okay.
I actually found that heathenry was a thing through SM Sterling. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be a heathen.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with that.
There are worse ways, really.
There are worse ways. There are perfectly reasonable heathens out there who discovered it through the Marvel movies. There are perfectly reasonable heathens out there who discovered it by reading American Gods.
There's lots of people who became heathens because of Tolkien.
Absolutely. So there's nothing wrong with that. The difference is where you go from that beginning. And
That's fair.
I'm willing to say you've gone to a very good place from that beginning. Because I've read those books, and if you had stayed there, you would not be in a very good place.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
Not
I mean,
to say they're not great books. They are great books.
I'm one of those that I was brought here by Bullfinch. So, you know,
Snob.
I actually, it's not American Gods. It's Bullfinch's mythology that largely brought me towards this way.
And now we found the elitist.
What? Hey.
And really, that's actually an interesting topic about what brings people to heathenry. For me, I was Wiccan, and I got really tired of Wiccans. There are great Wiccans out there, but at the time, all I knew were kind of neo-Wiccans who thought that Scott Cunningham was like the greatest thing ever. For those like 8 of you who also were Wiccans out there right now that listen. And so I actually, so it sounds so stupid because where I was in my life at the time, I actually Googled more conservative pagan religions. And of course, the first thing that pops up is heathenry. And then I read it, and it's like, oh my God, it's Norse, Norse mythology. And that was kind of my focus in Wicca, was Norse, because I grew up with my great grandmother teaching me Norse mythology because she was a genealogy nut, and trying to interject like Swedish traditions into our life that hadn't probably existed since our family came over in the 1790s. So
So are we doing the
Yeah.
testimonial now? Is that the thing now? for
Yes.
this episode?
You
Testify,
apparently
Brother
I
Torn.
started that,
Testify.
and I apologize.
It's okay. Mark, you wanna?
Are we talking testimonials? Because I fucking
Apparently.
hate them.
I can't stand it. You know, I'm gonna go ahead
I-
and say I'm gonna say right now. You know, over on the Reddit, our Sonasatru sub, we had to make a thread that we refresh once a month and pin to the top for the testimonials or for the introduce yourself thread, just because we didn't want to hear them. So I'm going to go ahead and make a declaration that hopefully the other hosts and our producer will go along with, that this is our testimonial episode, period. We
Yeah,
don't
that
do
was.
this again.
This is the whole point of it.
We don't do this again.
No.
I also want to say that I have a blog post in the works, which is one of like a dozen or so that's just kind of stagnating, where I hate testimonials. And I hate how they've become kind of de facto legitimizing agents where we have to prove our validity towards our actions in our decisions of whichever of religion we're choosing. Because as I'm a mod on our pagan, but it seems like we use them as our first introduction when it's such an insanely personal and such an insanely important step in our life, how we've got here, how we've converted, deconverted, reconverted, whatever. So I absolutely hate them.
Well, you don't have to
Absolutely.
give one.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I think it's.
I didn't realize I
don't-
was giving one,
Yeah,
so
sorry. To me, I find it. To talk on that topic, I find it fascinating. Like, I don't like it when things get cluttered up by introduction threads, but to me, I find it fascinating because we are not a part of the overculture. How people got from most of the time being raised in a nominally Christian household to heathenry. I just find I find that fascinating personally. I like to hear. I just like to hear how other people got there.
Right. So before I launch into my time to testify, Throne had a quick question that I can answer very shortly. He asked if I'm excited about The Expanse being a series on the Siffy channel. And for those of you questioning my pronunciation of that network as Siffy, I absolutely hate the rebranding they did, and I refuse to call it sci-fi when it's spelled SYFY. It's the Siffy channel now. That said, I am ridiculously excited for The Expanse to be made into a fucking show. Holy crap. I've seen the trailers for it. It looks amazing. It looks like they're going to get the feel of it right. The only thing I'm nervous about so far is that none of the trailers that are out there have addressed the concept of the protomolecule. That being said, and for those of you that have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, go out and read The Expanse. So just look it up, The Expanse, read it. It's the greatest thing ever. Moving along now. So
all right. So you have your bit to say, and then we can move on
yes,
to
then we can move on.
one more question, and then our closing stuff.
So to testify, because that can be turned into a 7-syllable word if you try hard enough.
Amen, Brother Torrin.
Just like Jesus can be said with at least 5 or 6 syllables if you're really passionate. Jesus. So,
I always love how they pronounce Nazareth as 2 symbols when they do that. Jesus of Nazareth.
Nazareth. So it may come as a surprise to some of you, but not only was I a Christian once upon a time, but I was a serious Christian once upon a time. I used to teach 3 Sunday school classes. 3 Sunday school classes a week when I was a high schooler. Yes, as a teenager in high school, I was teaching Sunday school class. I was.
You say that like it's unique.
But it's unexpected.
It is unexpected.
Yeah, and I was actually on a serious path to seminary, to tell you the truth, because there's always been this thing going on in my head where I said to myself, if there are gods, then they ought to be pretty fucking important. So it seemed like a natural thing for me to give them that importance. And so, given that that was what I had experience with, which was Christianity, that was the route I was starting to take. And it was teaching those 3 Sunday school classes that made me decide that maybe Christianity just wasn't the religion for me, because I actually started studying the Bible. Didn't like what I read. I actually tangled with my church a few times over things I was teaching in Sunday school class, which made it even better because when I was getting in trouble for teaching things that were in the book they claimed to follow, it just seemed kind of weird. Tried the atheism thing, but the idea of there not being God just never really sat well with me. So I went on the hunt and found the heathen gods and eventually found out that they weren't all that terribly important to the religion in general. There's your controversial statement of the episode.
Except it's not controversial to any of us.
To any of us, yes, but I'm sure we have listeners that are going to question me saying the gods are not all that important to heathenry. We will cover that in another episode. There's your teaser. But yeah, that's pretty much me. Is religion? If the gods exist, religion must be important. So when I switched to another religion, it just continued to be that equally as important to me.
So, on that note, I want to ask one question. It's going to be a rapid-fire question because we have 9 minutes left.
Oh, we can do this.
So you get, I'll call it 30 seconds apiece to answer. Two-parter. What's your favorite cuisine? And what is the classiest drink you have ever had? Torrin, go.
Ah, shit. Favorite cuisine, I don't necessarily know if I can nail it down to a national origin or anything, but I really like things that involve plenty of starch and meat that are really well cooked properly. I won't say well cooked, that gets the wrong idea across. So yeah, I like things that stick to your ribs. I like farm food. I'll just put it that way. Stuff with a lot of flavor. Grew up in a kitchen with a Russian grandmother who could take every spice in the freaking rack and put it in one dish, and it was amazing. That's where I go with that. As far as the classiest drink I've ever had, that's a really hard one to answer. I don't know what qualifies a classy drink, to be truthful with you. So somebody's going to have to prompt me on what the fuck a classy drink is supposed to be.
Mark, tell him what a classy drink is, you Roman lapdog.
I don't know.
Wow, you guys are horrible at this game.
It's true, but you're also supposing I actually go out to classy establishments. I suppose, super expensive wine is for me. That's what I would do. I was very happy when the waitress didn't hear me for asking for a second glass of wine when it was over $15 for a glass.
Wait, Mark, sorry, I have to interrupt you. I'm going to help you here because you're going to agree with me. Really high quality scotch.
Well, yes, but I mean, that's entirely different. Like, that's just a way of life. That's not classy.
It transcends.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to disagree here, and I'm going to say that the classiest drink you can have is 100-year-old scotch, because it's 100-year-old scotch.
In 100 years, that kind of transcends classy and goes into you have way too much fucking money.
Yeah,
you should give some to me.
If I had enough to afford 100-year-old scotch, I'd have a studio and not my shitty bedroom.
So
we would probably have a complex at that point, honestly.
What's the cuisine, Mark?
Italian. I'm sorry. Italian is my comfort food. Italian is my, red sauce, anchovies, olives. It doesn't matter. Best food in the world. And that's not because I'm Italian American. At all.
Sure it's not.
It might be.
Lauren?
Food-wise, I'm going to have to say Indian food. I like to cook it. I like to eat it. It's also largely gluten-free, so that may be why. For me, probably a glass of bottle-aged port at Commander's Palace in New Orleans. I dated a trust fund baby in college, so.
That was really specific. Thank you.
Well, you said the fanciest drink. That was, in fact, the fanciest drink I ever had. Because we were in a restaurant, I couldn't pay to get a glass of water. I couldn't afford a glass of water in.
And there's the Arkansasian not being able to tell the difference between classy and fancy.
Port is awesome.
So,
Sure.
Josh, the food.
My favorite cuisine, and this is sad because I've developed lactose intolerance due to the indiscretions of my ancestors. I love Russian foods, which involve all sorts of cream sauces.
Yes, they do.
So I don't
loved
get
my grandmother.
a lot of them.
Man, we had a Russian restaurant here, and it closed, and it was very sad.
I mean, never mind. Go on.
You know what, Josh? One of these days, I'm gonna get all of my grandmother's recipes. At this point, she's refusing to die because, well, she wants to spite the rest of us. And I think that's awesome, personally, because she's amazing. But,
Clearly related to you.
Clearly. The woman in her 80s, many years ago in her 80s, had a poster hanging in the wall that said 0 to bitch in 2.5 seconds. My 80-year-old Russian grandmother, everybody. She is amazing. And I wish you all the luck to get to meet her and be insulted by her one day. But Josh, if I ever get those recipes, I will let you sample them. You would love them.
And I will be sure to have all the lactaid in the world available.
Hey, you know what? There's plenty of them that don't have heavy cream sauces. I challenge anybody to sit down to a plate full of her cabbage rolls and not just lose themselves in it.
Good cabbage rolls are hard to beat. So, we have 4 minutes left. We have some pimping to do. And I'm going to go ahead and make an executive decision, because I guess I have decided I get to do that. And next week we're going to talk about community, because Mark brought it up this week, and I think it's a really important subject that we need to discuss in regards to how broad it truly is. We also have to go like the video on YouTube. It's really important that you do that. We need you to send us people to toast, because we all live lives and we can't be connected to everything all at the same time. So if you know someone who deserves a toast, please send it our way.
And I will say, if you've been hesitating on suggesting somebody in the past, thinking that maybe your suggestion is not going to be all that important and get overlooked, I will say that not one of these toasts that we have done yet has been at the suggestion of a viewer, because you are all slacking and not doing your job.
It's mostly, oh crap, we gotta, Lauren, do you know anybody?
Yeah. Nobody suggested anybody, and we haven't vetted anybody yet. Who the hell are we going to toast this week? This happens about 2 hours before showtime.
It was 4 today.
Okay, fair.
Guys, if you want to continue the conversation with us, ask us more inappropriate, stupid, or just good questions. Those are rare, though. You can head over to facebook.com/Heathen Talk, or you can get to links to all our social media from our website, heathentalk.com.
And we will even put up a special status post for people to ask those questions on in just a bit.
Absolutely. The last thing I want to do is just keep in mind that watch our feed. We're going to have announcements for other events that people tell us that we were able to vet. We're going to have announcements about Cascadia Moot, which I know everyone who listens is going to make their way out to it, because who wouldn't want to hang out with us?
Obviously. Yes. And I will say that we are definitely going to be doing the podcast in there. It'll probably be our best quality podcast ever, because we'll all be in one place, and I've actually secured a professional quality audio setup for that.
And I know how to use one.
And, well, it's 8:29, and I think we finished 60 seconds early. Wait, somebody say something and fill time.
So, yeah, everybody tune in next week on the community episode to hear me say things that are going to piss off a lot of people.
I want your artwork, and we want your original Heathen music. We want to be able to showcase this stuff, so send it in. Also, if you have the gumption to draw Torin as a My Little Pony, I really want that more than you could possibly know.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to announce a contest. It's going to come out of my own pocket. I will give a $25 Amazon gift card to the person who designs the best Torin as a My Little Pony.
Do we have a deadline for that?
You have 2 weeks. So not this upcoming community episode, but the following episode. I will pick a winner if anyone does it. If you don't do it, I get to save $25, and I'm not going to complain.
Please cost Josh money.
Also, on the music thing, Woodgar, I know you're listening. Make something for us. I don't care if it's a dark trance or not. Go for it.
And also, I do want to say we will be launching a fan store very soon with T-shirts and other goodies. So watch out for that. It'll be awesome. Money you spend there will help support us getting Torin better headsets.
Give us your money, or the quality of my broadcast will continue to go down.
So on that note, you're doing it wrong.
And you're not the boss of me.
Y'all
Or
have a
me.
good week.